In this video, we are talking about labels, also referred to as contexts. And before we get to processing and clarity, a part of having clarity is that each task completely chunked down is also going to have a label assigned to it. So what exactly is a label? A label is the only place or tool in which the task can actually move forward. So let's take a look at some of these labels. First one, town. Anything you have to do at town. And we'll use some examples here. So let's say it's going to be pick up milk. If I assign it the at town label, which is simply you can do the at sign, and it will automatically start auto-filling in anything. Pick up milk, that's an example. So even on bigger level projects, for example, I have to set up a new area for holding some office supplies. One end task for me to move it forward is I do have to go to Target and get some new ITSO bins. So think of all the things you could do at town when you're doing it. Another label, at home. What are the things where you can only do at home? What are the phone calls which you have to make? Call my secretary regarding this. Call my friend regarding this. Call my mom regarding this. Call Billy regarding this. Anything to do to move that project forward. That is a label that you would be assigning to it. If you happen to have a split home and office and you want to use that, then you could also add things which only can happen at your office. And obviously one of the bigger ones in today's day and age is at the computer. All those things you can do online, Excel, Google Docs, all that stuff. One cross-contextual note is with today's smartphones, yes, a lot of things could be entered as at phone. As a rule of thumb, just enter it as computer. Why? Because we want to be working from our computer anyhow compared to our phone. It's just much faster. And we always know it's there in case of backup. But hey, put all your phone calls that you got to make here at phone as well as the computer stuff, leave that at computer. Another one which I like is just brainstorm. Maybe I'm in brainstorming phase. And what this means to me is I'm in the middle of brainstorming on a project, and you know what? It can kind of be done anywhere. I could pull up mind maps or Google Docs on my computer and start dumping my mind, or a more favorite place of mine to brainstorm, especially if it's simple, is just grabbing the good old-fashioned notebook and pen to step away from the actual computer land. So maybe I just launched a project and my true next action is, hey, I got to brainstorm on this. I would literally just say, brainstorm on Project X, and I'd use the tag at brainstorm. The beautiful waiting for tag. This tag is for when we assign things out, but we still want to care for it. So let's act as if in order to move this specific project forward, that one of the tasks is you assigned it to employee X, or even someone outside the company, that you assigned it to them, so you know that the true task to move it forward is you're waiting on someone else. So let's say this is task X, call it whatever it is, and your next action is, I'm waiting for James to complete. Whether if it's any of your employees, any outside sources, your status is simply saying, hey, I'm actually waiting for this person to move it forward. That's the stance where I'm knowing it, where I know where I'm at. From all the years of using the waiting for tag, I have other just phenomenal ideas which saves you a lot of money. This just isn't about controlling the task which has been assigned. This is about making sure you keep a tab on everything which actually matters to you. Here are some awesome examples for this. Anytime someone owes me money, I drop in a waiting for tag. Maybe Billy owes me $50. I will put it in there and it won't get lost. Anytime I lend out a tool, a book, anytime like someone borrows my clothes, I immediately drop it into my inbox on Anyway, and I just say, hey, this person owes me this back. You will be so surprised on how much stuff you lend out and or money and people that owe you that it's up to you to stay on top of them. Now, one other incredible example of the waiting for tag is, now that you have a money system, you're going to very much learn that 80-90% of people just don't. They're not reliable. And it kind of is your job to stay on top of them while releasing that energy and not being so concerned about them all of the time. I can make easy decisions on who is reliable or not, whether if it's some of my vendors, outside sources that I need to stay on top of, even friends when it comes to, hey, I'm waiting on your word to actually move this thing forward. So that's the beauty of the waiting for tag, that you are actually going to stay on top of them. And sometimes I need to accelerate the process. So if all of a sudden something becomes more and more important, I will then assign a due date to it. Like, I'm going to follow up with Billy regarding tomorrow, regarding the status on this. Where is it? And then he may not still be on top of it, and I'll bump it another 2 days. It's a cycle that I use in order to keep people just on their game and really pressure them to move it forward, if and only when it deserves pressure. Rule of thumb, never date the waiting for tag, with rare exception, and that rare exception is when things are starting to become due and people need more pressure, you can actually start dropping in a due date. So let's say as if in 2 days, I'm going to follow up with this person again. And that comes, I'll do it on Friday. I won't mark it complete until it's actually received. Or I'll update the project, but I won't mark it complete, and I'll just keep following up with them. But rule of thumb, do not mark a date on it, and you will see and understand the reasons why. The beautiful waiting for tag, Brainstorm, remind me. The remind me tag. It's like a tickler. And you're simply saying, let's say you want to test the reliability of a project AB in maybe 2 weeks. So I started today. I can simply put in the task at remind me, remind me to double check this. And this is where dating comes into play. I could say, hey, plus 2 weeks down the road. And then when the day comes, it will actually remind me, and I could check in the remind me tag. The reason for remind me tag as well is it's future dated, and it's not going to fall into your current project and task system on things that you're hammering away from. You can simply say, hey, remind me in 1 week to double check on this. Someone else tells you, hey, you know what, contact me in 10 days regarding this, and I might want to engage with you on this. It's simply a future reminder tag. And even for like big decisions, if you want to put help yourself be decisive. Let's say you just grab something and you say, you know what, I'm not really sure about this right now. In 2 weeks, I'll make the decision. You could either drop it into someday maybe, or just say, hey, it's time for me to make this decision. This is when I'm going to be following up with this person. The beautiful agenda tag, especially when you are involved in relationships, family ones you're in highly committed relationships, as well as the relationships inside of your business in which you have frequent contact with people. When you have something that's extremely frequently contacted, for example, Jim is my head of operations, I actually have a special tag for him, and it's called, it's the Jim tag. So, how does it work? Whenever I think of an idea, or when I have to talk with Jim regarding something, or even that's the next stage of the task in order to move it forward, I'll simply say I've talked to him regarding, Project X, and I'll label it at Jim. So if you have someone that you talk to frequently, your head of operations, maybe there's just a key employee or two below you, your boss, give them their own agenda name. Why? So imagine having all of these across all your projects that you have going on, and then all of a sudden, all these different topics where you got to talk to your head of operations. What about even your girlfriend or like a key employee or boss? Imagine all of a sudden they're in front of you. You can hit the Jim tag, and everything regarding topics with him will pop up in that moment, so you can just hammer them away. So I would recommend, if you happen to be in a relationship romantically, add their name on it. You'd be surprised on how many times personally you have to talk to them on moving things forward. Also, your heads of operations or key bosses. Here's another important note on it, because if you actually wanted to talk to them and hit them up every time you had an idea or you need an answer for them to move it forward, you would literally drive them nuts and crazy. And the same goes on the rule of agreement for approaching you, is that they should have your own @ like in my world is like the @Brad tag. Like, they know that they cannot be hitting me up every single 5, 10, 15 minutes. It will just totally ruin the flow. The rare exception to the rule is this, really needed today? Does this really matter to right now to keep moving priority projects forward? But imagine that to where if your girlfriend or your employee or your boss says, hey, I now have you in front of me. Let's click the topic agenda under your name, and let's just go under everything. Now, a basic rule of thumb in the agenda tag, don't overdo it. If you're only talking to people like maybe once a week, that is very low in priority. Not, for example, if you're talking to your accountant or your lawyer once a week. I talk to my head of operations twice a week. Those names definitively want to be in there. But it's very light, random friends and stuff like that. Just drop it under the agenda tag, put their name in there, and you can say something as simple like, it's going to be agenda. Hey, when I finally see Billy, I'm going to talk to him regarding this, and maybe it's going to be on Tuesday. Who knows? But those are the points of labels and their purpose behind it. And these serve an incredible purpose when we talk about the next subject, which is all about getting clarity on each and every individual task. Because for each task that we're going to move forward that's chunked down, is each one of them is going to have a label, and we're going to have to define which label it is which is going to move it forward. And that just helps with the clarity, but labels create an astronomical increase in savings in time as you're just moving through different contexts. For example, especially when you're waiting in the doctor's office, if you get stuck at some random place and you're waiting on the coffee shop for like 15 minutes, there is no such thing as lag time anymore. You can just kill it. The town tag saves so much time, easily 2 to 4 hours a week, especially exponentially when you have a relationship or someone that you're living with, and or even family, where everyone can drop things into that. And one of the other gigantic momentum creators in this productivity is when you have these labels and all of a sudden you hop into a different context where all of a sudden you're at home and maybe you just have the energy to work on stuff at home. You can see everything that you can do at home to move things forward. Or if you're ever waiting on other people, one of the greatest ones is you just simply pull out your app and you say, I want to see all the phone calls that I can make right now, and you can just hammer them out. Awesome example, I remember being at the doctor's office and waiting for like an hour, and I'm seeing all these other people who are just dead in their tracks there. I was able to pull out my phone, hit the phone tag button, and hammer away on all types of conversations. And this isn't even just being about just productive in nature in business, but even about the people that I like to stay in touch with and love, whether if it's my family, close friends, other people I want to catch up and make social plans. There's no such thing as not being able to move forward on anything at all, no matter where you're at. If it's airports, doctors, you're sitting in the coffee shop for a dead 10-15 minutes, and you don't feel like just like sitting being there. These label and context tags absolutely drive a magnificent source of lost time, let alone momentum inside the context. And it is exponentially beautiful for people who have intertwined work and personal lives. It really accelerates the process on them being able to get things done.